Hello everyone, and welcome back. This is, I know, a little alien from what I usually cover, but today we're going to be going over a beginner's guide to Terraria in the most spoiler-free way that I possibly can. I'll get into why I wanted to do this a little bit later, but effectively all you need to know for now is this is the earliest game and most impactful information that I can possibly give you that will set you up for a successful first playthrough of Terraria. So the only thing of note on the character creation screen is the difficulty settings. If you pick hardcore, you die and you're gone forever. If you pick medium core, you drop your items on death. Journey is effectively this game's creative mode, and classic is obviously the go-to way to actually learn the game. So after creating your character, you'll need to create a world. The only real notable things on the world creation screen is world size and difficulty of the world. I would highly recommend new players pick small, as it makes covering one end of the world to the other, getting to the sky, getting down below deep into the caves to find resources significantly more easier. If you are playing in journey mode, the creative mode, you will need to make your world journey or else you'll not be able to play it. Expert mode is definitely worth playing once you've cleared the game once or twice, as it adds new enemy AI and new items to the bosses and definitely shakes up the game a lot, but Master pushes into a more masochistic territory and is not something you should feel pressured to play. For a first playthrough, pick Classic. After creating your character and world and loading in, the first thing to do is cut down a tree. I promise I won't go into painstaking detail on all the obvious stuff. Now, before I get too far along down this avenue, there's two important things we want to check in the settings. So if you open your inventory with Escape and look at the bottom right, open the settings menu, we can see this option called Autofire. Effectively, without this, most weapons in the game will require you to click every time you want to use them. So for example, this copper short sword, every time I want to swing it, I have to click the button to attack the enemies. However, if we go into settings and enable auto fire, I'm able to hold left click and repeatedly attack with the weapon that way. So effectively, every semi-automatic quote-unquote weapon in the game is now fully automatic. This helps a lot with RSI. Also importantly is two quality of life smart cursor options. First, we'll talk about auto select. If I make a torch and place it into my inventory, holding left shift and aiming my cursor anywhere in the world will pull out the torch for me, as I'm effectively in a non-illuminated area. If I aim at a block while holding left shift, it'll auto-equip my pickaxe, and if I aim at a tree, it'll auto-equip the axe. Mostly, this is just a give me a torch button. That's all I personally use it for, but it is extremely useful. And secondly, something that's a lot more useful is Smart Cursor. So as you can see, as I'm aiming around the environment with my pickaxe in hand, I'm able to click on the individual blocks. So say I wanted to dig a tunnel downwards to travel through, I have to mouse back and forth across each individual block. However, if we press left control, we can turn on Smart Cursor. You can see this yellow blob sort of locking onto the blocks around me. This means that I can simply hold my cursor anywhere in the direction that I want to go, and it will automatically target the blocks to make a tunnel for me. And this also works side to side. You can see the painstaking difference whenever I'm having to very carefully select each individual block, whereas if I just turn on Smart Cursor, I can just go with reckless abandon. Next, we have one of the most painful things that it hurts me to see new players not knowing how to do. So let's say that, for example, I have dirt blocks in my inventory, right? And I want to build a little dirt pillar right here. I would have to open up my inventory, pick up my dirt blocks, put them on my hotbar, and either scroll to or select with the numbers, and then place the dirt blocks in the world. Say I only wanted to place a few dirt blocks. I mean, there's got to be an easier way to do this. Well, there actually is. Say these dirt blocks are in my inventory and I'd like to place them down into the world. The easy way to do this is to simply open the inventory, left click to pick up the blocks, and then left click directly into the world. This allows me to build a little ramshackle shelter easily, quickly, and without having to fumble around with things on the hotbar, number keys, or scrolling around. On the topic of building, the plus and minus keys allow you to zoom your camera in. And the important thing about this is that by zooming in more, you are effectively making your cursor smaller than a block. As you can see from here, it's a little bit more precise to try to put blocks where I want to. However, if I zoom my cursor in all the way, zoom my screen in all the way, you can see that my cursor is smaller than a single block now. So it's significantly easier for me to build whatever structure I want in greater detail. This also helps a lot with taking a closer look at enemies in the world or items dropped on the ground or anything like this. Excuse you, slime? Okay. So anyways, that's zoom. I mainly play zoomed all the way out, but it's definitely a good feature for content creation as well. Now, this ramshackle dirt pile I just created isn't exactly very homely, so let's go over housing next. Unlike some survival crafting contemporaries, Terraria does actually have some stipulations on what is considered a house. So here I'll build this wooden box and see where that gets us. Now, we can tell whether or not something is considered a house by using the housing menu on the right side. By clicking this button, we can see all NPCs that are currently alive and loose in the world, whether they're housed or not, as well as the housing query button, which is what we're going to use. If I click inside this wooden box after clicking the question mark, it'll say that we are missing a wall. So in order to remedy that, we're going to quickly make a workbench and make some wooden walls. This is why Terraria is a 2.5D game, is because walls can go in the background that our player character can stand in front of. So we made the house out of normal wood blocks, but wood walls will go in the background. Additionally, of note, Smart Cursor is extremely useful for filling spaces with back walls. So with that out of the way, this must be a house, right? Not quite. This house is missing a light source, a door, and a chair. So in order to have something count as a house, it also needs to have a table, which that crafting bench is counting as. So basically, if you have a wooden box like this, you need a light, a door, a table, and a chair for it to be a real house. So let's do that now. This is what I'm talking about with using out of inventory. It's significantly easier to get this stuff done when you're not having to manually place all the items on your hotbar and then place them in the world. So now we have a fully eligible house. This housing is suitable. And what this will allow us to do is manually place our NPC to live in this house by clicking on his head and then clicking on the housing. This will not only move him into the house, but reserve this particular house for him in the future, so that when we have more NPCs, if he is to lose this house for some reason, by either dying or some other features that I won't spoil for you with the world changing, it will reserve it for him to move back into. And for this reason, due to there being many NPCs in the game, you want to build multiple houses at all stages of progression. So that's my number one tip for NPC housing, other than just how to do it, which you can see right here. It doesn't have to be fancy. It can be fancy, but it doesn't have to be. The main tip with housing is just have extra houses at all times, because there's a lot of preconditions that the game has for what will make new NPCs move in, and as a new player, you're not going to know all of those. So you will meet those preconditions without even realizing it, and if you don't have a house for them to move into, you'll never know that an NPC is waiting to move in. Now, before night falls, we'll go ahead and take a little jaunt across the world and talk about my next major point, which is early on in progression, you want to grab absolutely everything you can get your hands on, chopping down trees, breaking rocks, and more importantly, by running along the surface, you can often find chests, right? So you'll see these pots on the ground. We can break these pots to get some loot out of them and place torches on the wall so we can see. And here we go. Here's our first chest. So inside we have an accessory, which we can equip, some grenades for damage, a rope for traversal, recall potions, which are incredibly important, a swiftness potion, and some empty bottles. Now importantly, once you take all of this stuff, you can break the chest. This is very important for some stuff that we're going to go over in a minute. Since I got some recall potions, I'm going to use these to go back to my house. Now, something I want to talk about when we're looking at items in the inventory is a general way to tell how interesting an item should be to you. So whenever we're talking about our actual equipment, not so much blocks and potions and things like that, if we look at this copper axe, we can see a lot of information about it. It tells you how much damage it does, its critical strike chance, speed, knockback. All those things are just fine, but most importantly, we can see that it is a material at the bottom. Lots of items have this tag on them. Basically what that tells you is this item is able to be turned into something else. And that's what the guide NPC will do for you. So if we come over here and talk to him and say crafting, we can pull up this little block right here in which we can place items into, and he will tell us what we can make out of them. So here we can see this recipe requires some stuff that we've never heard of before, so we won't worry about that for now, but it's just important to know that this item has a use. Additionally, there are some unique items in the game, like these presents, that have tooltips that will give you some additional information. So in this case, these are what is referred to as a grab bag item. So by right-clicking them, we can open them and get things out of them. Oh, that's quite a good little spread. So I actually got a better sword out of that bag, as well as a edible item that will improve all of my stats for 4 minutes. And as we can see, this sword is not a material, and this is not a material, so it kind of tells you that this is to be used to increase your stats. And this sword is just kind of what it is. It's a sword, you use it. Which is quite a lucky pull from that grab bag. So make sure you're reading items and not just, throwing them in a chest and never using them. Speaking of that, let's talk about a few more things as far as inventory management. This doesn't look too alarming to me, but I can see as a new player this would be quite a confusing issue to be having in your inventory. So let's talk about that. Chests are, the reason I tell you to grab chest is because this is how you alleviate your inventory management issues. By right-clicking on this, you have a whole other inventory to jam a bunch of stuff into. But let's not go to that just yet. A few things that I would always recommend having when you're running around the world, if you can manage to get your hands on them, is recall potions, healing potions, wood, and gel. So what I just did is favoriting these items. By holding left alt, I'm able to favorite the individual items, and this does a few things. It effectively prevents them from being pulled out of my inventory by a hotkey. So this will prevent me from quick trashing, quick selling, or quick stacking the items out. And we'll talk about what one of those things means right now, and that'll give you a good idea of all the others. Another thing you should always have on you is torches, but that's the reason I say you should bring wood and gel, is because wood is used for a lot of things including traversal, and gel is the other ingredient that you need to make torches. So have those favored as well if you're going to be carrying them around. Alright, so now let's talk about quick stacking and sorting. So these two buttons at the bottom right of your inventory are probably the most important thing in the entire HUD as far as inventory management goes. So quick stack to nearby chests will pull all the items out of your inventory that are pre-existing in a nearby chest. So for example, if I take one rope and put it into this chest, I'll go a little bit of distance away from the chest to make this easier to see. So as you can see, I'm almost at the edge of my screen when fully zoomed in, and I'll press the quick stack to nearby chest button, and it pulls the rope out of my inventory and goes directly to the chest. So this can be a little slow to develop at first. As you can see, the rest of my inventory is completely unaided by this, but after you start building up a good storage area, you will be able to press that button and effectively clean out your inventory of non-favorited items. Another thing whenever you're first starting out is the deposit all button. So once you have the items you want to keep favorited, you can press deposit all to deposit all the items that are not on your hotbar. Alternatively, you can use the loot all button to loot everything. However, this does throw items onto your hotbar if you do have open spots, so not always ideal. And then lastly, we have sort items, or excuse me, sort inventory in the bottom right. So if I press this button, it will filter everything up and to the left in my inventory, which is why you'll see a lot of players keeping their favorited items in the bottom left or bottom right, as it filters up and to the left. So now if we press the sort inventory button again, you can see it crams everything up that direction. So going back over to the chest and putting everything away again. So now I'm just carrying the important items that I want to carry. And as you can see here, if I put this recall potion in here and then hit quick stack to nearby chests, these two will be protected because they're favorited. If I unfavorite them, they'll get pulled out just like everything else. Okay, last thing. We didn't really touch on it, but basically crafting in this game works by standing next to the crafting stations rather than by directly interacting with them. So by standing next to this workbench, I'm able to craft more things than if I move away from it. Over here in the corner, I can only make a few things. Over here, I can make the full gamut of items. So if I put my wood into this chest, or I'll just actually put everything. Now I have no materials to craft with. The only thing I can do is break my coins down into other coins. A really useful trick, if you position your storage right by placing a chest right here or on a platform up in the air, is you can actually open the chest while standing near a crafting station and craft using materials stored in the chest. I most often utilize this by placing all of my metals and materials and valuables in a chest right next to my crafting stations. That way it's within reach and I can make all my essential tools using that. And the last thing before we wrap up, we'll just go over the general player interface. This is where everyone else can check out. So in the top left you have your inventory, as we've talked about, with your hotbar up at the top. That is the bar that persists when you close your inventory. Right here you have what I would consider the best overarching guiding tool for getting through your first playthrough, as this is in parity with the Steam achievements. It basically guides you to the next objective. So in this case, it's telling me we need to survive the night, which we're in the process of doing right now and will probably happen before I'm done yapping. Here we have the coin and ammo slots, which effectively helps you save inventory space by not requiring you to carry your coins in your actual inventory and give you a dedicated slot for it. An important thing about this is you won't be able to put other items in these slots, so there's no reason not to carry your coins there. Alternatively, you have the ammo slots where you can put things like bullets, arrows, and a fun little fact not a lot of people know is you can put gel here as well. I won't spoil why that is, but gel is considered ammo. Right here we have quick stack to nearby chests and sort inventory that we talked about before, and the two buttons below it, which is open the bestiary, which shows all enemies that you've engaged with up until this point, as well as your overall game completion. So as you can see here, well, I guess it's more than enemies, excuse me. So critters, NPCs, and enemies are shown here, and the overall game percentage. So what we've seen so far is only 2% of the game. And here we have the emote window, which I personally have never used for anything. In the top right, you have your health and mana. Both of these can be increased in various ways that you can figure out as you go. And up here you have the minimap. By pressing tab, you can overlay it on the middle of your screen to see everything you've explored, and pressing tab again will hide it completely. I often like to play with the minimap completely hidden, as I usually know where I'm going, but having it on is a great convenience, and using these plus and minus right here, you can zoom in and out on it. And probably the most confusing part for most new players is this whole situation on the right over here. So these buttons, most importantly, are your loadout slots. If I can grab a few things real quick. So I can place this helmet, the goggles, on my head, and I can place this accessory right here. If I change loadouts, they will be gone. They're stored in my first loadout. So this is the equipment that I currently have. A lot of people will lose items to their loadouts like that. And to that extent, let's talk about the actual armor and equipment. So up here at the top is your helmet, chest plate, and pants. So this is effectively where you will wear your armor. Armor has set bonuses, so it's good to wear a matching set, but overall, every armor in the game is 3 pieces. Down below you have the accessories, for example, these climbing claws that we have. So if we throw these climbing claws on, they will give us an effect. So it allows the ability to slide down walls, and will be improved if we combine it with another accessory. And then over here we have goggles, which are just some very, very basic armor that we can put on our head. The column next to this is a vanity. So if I put the climbing claws in this slot right here, they will not have any practical effect. As you can see, I can't stick to walls if they're in vanity. I can if they are in the actual equipment. This is effectively just to give you a cosmetic option to wear any accessories or armor you want. As you can see here, I have 1 defense given to me by my goggles. If I put them in the vanity helmet slot, I don't get that defense, but they would show on top of any armor I was wearing. So if I was wearing a helmet, it wouldn't appear that I was wearing a helmet. I would be wearing goggles instead. Cool little vanity item, but not important at all. Here we have the extended equipment menu, which gives you a pet, a light pet, a minecart, a mount, and a grappling hook. As you progress, you'll find these items, and if you simply right-click them in your inventory, they'll be equipped over here on the right side. So don't worry too much about these for now. It's overwhelming for no reason. We talked about the housing menu already, which gives you the housing query button and a status update on all your NPCs in the world. And lastly, you have camera mode, which there's a few abusable uses for, but I don't personally use it for anything. And other than the settings menu in the bottom right to adjust things like, general interface, UI, and video, that's really all there is to it. So that's where I'll leave you. I don't want to really push any further into the game or show you anything else. I really do genuinely believe that the magic of a first Terraria playthrough is in what you make it for yourself. The last thing I'll leave you with is go to the guide and press the help button. He will tell you something to do. So use your pickaxe to dig through dirt, use your axe to chop down tree, place your cursor over the tile and click. As you progress through the game, his hints and help will actually update, and you will get new advice. So as you can see here, he's giving us very benign milquetoast sort of survival hints. As we go further, he will start to tell us things like use escape to access your crafting menu. When you have wood, create a workbench. This will allow you to create more things as long as you're standing close to it. Beautiful, short, truncated explanation of what's going on and what you need to do. So absolutely abuse the guide's help menu as much as humanly possible. But yeah, that's all the actual advice I have for you. So if you would like to continue sitting here listening to me yap, by all means. But this is where the practical part of the video does end. So if you're about to head out now, I appreciate it and thank you for watching. So like I alluded to at the beginning, the reason I wanted to make this video is because I myself and a lot of other people are extremely guilty of heavily railroading new players on Terraria playthroughs and sort of stealing away some of that magic that comes with the first playthrough of this game, as I genuinely feel like the opportunity to explore and fumble and fail your way through this game is something you really can't get back after you miss it on the first playthrough. So I think it's genuinely very important and very serious that people get the chance to, have that first playthrough and have some exploration. So this is just basically an open plea to anyone that has a person they're trying to get into this game or a friend that you're planning on playing through it soon with, to please let them guide the game. Don't take them directly to the next boss and fight everything as soon as possible. Give it some time, give it some inefficiency, because if you know what you're doing, you can absolutely ruin the first playthrough of Terraria for anyone that you're playing with, or even anyone that you're just giving advice to. So that's all I really wanted to say, in addition to the meat of the video, is just, the first playthrough of this game is a hallowed thing, and it deserves to be respected. So yeah, that's about all I got for you today. As you can see, I'm making a great example of the completely busting out of progression thing. So if you got anything useful out of this video, I greatly appreciate it. If you've already played a few thousand hours of Terraria like me, why the hell did you watch this far? I greatly appreciate it. As always, thank you for watching, and have a nice day.